So welcome everyone. It's just about 1:02, so we're going to get started. We want to thank you for joining our webinar provided by the RISE team. We want to first and foremost thank you, each and every one of you being New Jersey first responders, for all of your continued efforts during the COVID-19 pandemic. And as we enter 2021, today is a big day for our country. I know lots going on in Washington, D.C. With the inauguration of a new president and vice president. And of course, there's so many first responders that are there just to support the country. So, and I know that's happening here in New Jersey as well. So for those of you that have taken the time to join us for our webinar, thank you. We appreciate all of your efforts day in and day out, especially during these trying times. Today is our third webinar in our bi-monthly series, and it's entitled Regulation, Managing Resilience and Stress, Self-Regulation and the Ability to Refocus in the Moment, which of course is just super valuable, and we're really looking forward to a great discussion today. My name is Ravi Maharaj, and I'll be your host. I'll be more in the back end for technical support. If there's any type of support you need, definitely message me in the Zoom chat, and I'll be able to help walk you through it. We have a great program lined up for you today, so I'd like to introduce our first speaker. That is Kelly Montesano. She is a New Jersey firefighter, an EMT, and a member of the New Jersey RISE team. So Kelly, take it away.
Thank you, Ravi, and welcome everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. We are so excited to have you all with us and to show you the program we put together for our first responders. Please feel free to chat in our chat box and to say hi, where you're from, or any questions or comments you have along the way. New Jersey First Responder COVID Line is part of Rutgers National Call Center. We are part of New Jersey Hope and Healing, which is a FEMA-funded project that addresses the emotional and behavioral needs of New Jersey residents concerned about the COVID-19 pandemic. RISE program is specific for our state's dedicated first responders. Next slide. Our RISE program offers 4 primary support services: peer-staffed crisis helplines, webinars, which you are part of today, virtual support groups to allow you to come together and talk to one another, and our database of resources and outreach programs to connect to you while you're serving everyone else. Next slide. Here's our team and faces behind the phone lines, the ones sitting with you during the support groups and here with you during the webinar. We are staffed with first responders just like you, retired and active during the pandemic. We have over 100 years of combined experience working in law enforcement, fire, EMS, and our armed forces. I want to take this time to have the RISE staff introduce themselves in the chat box. Let us know who you are so you can put a face with the names. Thank you. Our webinar series follows the UPenn resiliency model. Here are the 6 skills we will discuss throughout our webinar series to help you build your resilience and help prevent anxiety and depression. 2 weeks ago, we discussed self-awareness. And for those of you that joined us during our last webinar, I invite you to share with us in the chat box a practice that you completed on self-awareness. If this is your first time joining us today, what does self-awareness mean to you? I'll give you guys a couple of seconds, minutes to chat away. It's great being aware of my current situation, my feelings, understanding my own character and feelings. So I myself today went to the gym. I know that these webinars do make me stressful. I'm a firefighter by trade and not a public speaker. So, I did my gym exercise this morning for my self-awareness. I was pretty aware of that last week. So this is great. Self-awareness is identifying your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors and your patterns. It's knowing what you're thinking and how your body is feeling and what is your body going through during these situations. How's your breathing? Things like that. So today we're going to discuss self-regulation. Before we get started, again, I invite you to chat in the chat box. What does self-regulation mean to you? That's great. Going from reacting to responding to certain situations, maintaining healthy habits. That's great. It's our ability to regulate impulses, thinking, emotions, and behavior to achieve our goals, as well as the willingness and ability to express emotions. So let's stop and think about this. Back to the resilient toolbox that Buddy Johnson spoke about in our last webinar. We are adding more tools to our toolbox. We learn to become aware of those emotions and thoughts and behaviors. And now that we are self-aware, let's work on regulating those thoughts and behaviors and emotions to achieve our goals. In the rest of our webinar series, we will discuss mental agility, connection, strength of character, and optimism. We want to give you these tools to help you navigate and thrive during these challenging times. Dr. Kate Tumulty-Felice, a Master Resiliency Officer and Professor in Psychology, will show us how breathing techniques allow us to be present in the moment and dial in on that immediate decision-making that we are faced with on a daily basis. As a first responder, these techniques will help us make logical decisions in that split second. Let's take a look at this webcast brought to you by Resilient Minds in the Front Lines.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kate Tumulty-Felice. I'm an education and psychology professor and a master resiliency trainer. As a master resiliency trainer, I know that resiliency is about bouncing back after adversity, and it's about hope. As an educator, I know that the skill set we need to have resiliency is something that can be learned and practiced over time. So as a teacher, I'm going to give you a little assignment right now. Remember when you were in school and your teacher would say, clear your desk and take out something to write with, and all of a sudden heart rate would increase, breathing rate would increase? Don't worry, we're ready for this quiz today. All I need you to do is find your breath. So whether you're a deep belly breather or whether your breaths are a little bit more shallow, find your breath, and we're gonna start to count it right now. And I'm gonna give you about 15 seconds to count how many breaths you take during that time. So you should be counting right now, and we're just gonna count the total number of breaths you take during that 15 seconds. And you can end right now. Since we're in school and I'm already giving you work to do, I'm gonna tell you to multiply that by 4, and that's your breathing rate in a minute. And that's not a foreign concept. Many of us know that you need to check someone's breathing rate to check for life, right? And that's a very valuable and precious resource, our ability to breathe, that sometimes we take for granted. Our time is also a valuable and precious resource. So I want to share with you why I'm spending some of your time, and I appreciate your time today because I want to talk to you about mindfulness. Mindfulness ties into our breathing because it's something in this out of control world that allows us the ability to control exactly the moment that we're in. Much of what's going on right now, much of life in general, feels so out of our control that we're always grasping, right? And they say if you live in the future, it's worry. If you live in the past, it's regret. How do you live right in the moment that you're in? Part of that is through controlling our breathing. It is something you can control, which is interesting because it's one thing in the autonomic nervous system that is able to be controlled consciously by us, that we can think about our breathing and practicing that pausing and waiting. I define mindfulness as non-judgmental awareness and presence in the moment that you're in. Presence, something that you can control. Being exactly where you are in that moment. That can be in your breathing and being aware of your breathing and controlling that deep breath in and deep breath out. It can be mindfulness in what you're eating, and instead of in the quick time you have scarfing down that food, actually tasting the food. It can be in an exchange with another person, being very aware and present of what you're saying and what they're saying, not thinking about the next thing you want to say, but just being aware of what is going on in that moment. Mindfulness is a gift you give not only yourself, much like resiliency, it's a gift that you give the people around you because you're there. But how do we do that in such an out of control world? How do we control something that is spinning around us and be present in moments that we can't anticipate? And how do we do that in the body that we're in that automatically goes to that place of reaction, right? Because if we're saying that mindfulness is pausing before we react and our body's go-to is react because I have to, how do we hijack that? The way we do that is through the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is one of the biggest nerves that run through your body. It goes from our brain and goes to every major part of us and controls every major part of us, our heart, our lungs, all the way down to our gut. And its go-to initially when we react to something is to the sympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is the one that is fight, flight, or freeze. So when something happens, when we perceive a threat, when there's a monster chasing us, that's the nervous system, the one that puts us into reaction mode. The opposite of what I'm talking about and being mindful, right? It goes there without us having to even think about it. Sometimes like breathing, right? So we go and our heart rate increases when that monster's chasing us, our breathing rate increases, our pupils dilate. Pretty good if there's a threat, but not necessarily optimal for everyday function and decision making. Because when our brain pushes us right to that reactionary model of being with the ready to go, cortisol's dumping in, we bypass any kind of, and we never get to really, the prefrontal cortex, the logic, the decision making, the rational mind, because we're right in the survival mode. We're in that amygdala, we're emotional, we're reacting, and we're not pausing. And sometimes we don't have the luxury of pausing. We don't have the luxury of being in the moment because we have to handle the threat that's coming at us. We have to deal with it when we're being chased by the monster. But what happens when the monster's in our head? What do we do when the monster is up here and it's our concerns and it's our worries and it's our fear and it's our trying to control things that are not within our control? That's when we can hijack that vagus nerve. We can bypass or work with our sympathetic nervous system to tap into our parasympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system, sometimes we hear as our rest and digest. It's the relaxation. It's the one that lets us pause and react with much more logic and reason so that we can think it out. In the moment, that's hard to do. Something as simple as mindful breathing, mindfulness, that one pause before we react. Hard to do, but we have the ability to train ourselves to do it. The first time I testified in court, an assistant prosecutor told me, before you answer any question, I don't care what it is, even if it's your name, I want you to take a deep breath. And it sounded kind of odd because I felt like when someone asked me a question, I have to hurry up and give an answer. But I took his advice because he knew a lot more than I did. And when he was prepping me for questions, I soon realized why he did that. And I'm sure you realize it as well. If I paused before I answered simple questions like my name, I had time, rather than to give my first initial response filled with all that stress and emotionality, and back up and give a logical answer. When the questions got harder and the answers really mattered, and my action could be life or death, and we're all involved in situations where we need to make an immediate decision and respond in a way that could affect life or death, that tiny little pause gave me a moment to rewire that system to be able to at least tap into the relaxation mode, the prefrontal cortex, the decision making, so that I could answer in a coherent and logical way. Practicing the pause made all the difference. We can do that in our daily life. A lot of people do that in their training. The military does this in their training. I'm going to give you one simple technique that allows you to tap into that. It's called box breathing. Box breathing is a pretty simple concept and usually counted by fours. So you breathe in for 4, you hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. Something that simple resets your immediacy into the sympathetic nervous system and allows you to tap into the parasympathetic nervous system. About 40 million people in our country have anxiety. And one of the things that we recommend with anxiety is to control what you can and to tap into the things that are right around you. Stopping and finding 5 things that I can see, 4 things that I can touch, 3 things that I can hear, 2 things that I can smell, 1 thing that I can taste. Through all that, I'm breathing, right? And it allows me to pause and be more logical and reasonable in situations that don't always facilitate that. So you have to facilitate that yourself. One trick I'm going to give you, and I'm going to let you take away with you to help build your own resiliency, is to think about very simply a breath in which your exhale is longer than your inhale. I'm going to give you homework. I started this as a teacher, I'll end it as a teacher. Your homework is when you're doing something that is a mindless task, I'm asking you to be mindful in that task. And I'm going to ask you to do that by breathing. Let's say you're scrolling through social media or email or anything that you just kind of want to veg out and not really focus. You don't have to focus, but I am asking you to breathe. And all I'm going to ask you to do is when you're scrolling through those emails or that social media, use that as a time, as a challenge, as your homework to mindfully breathe. Inhale, hold, make sure that exhale is longer. Simply by doing that, you put yourself in practice to practice the pause, to be more mindful, to be more resilient and more effective. This is a tool for resiliency. And as I said, that's learned behavior. The more we practice it, the better we become and the healthier we become. Be safe, be strong, be resilient, be mindful. I'm Dr. Kate Tumblety-Felice. Thanks so much for your time.
Just received so many new tools for our resilience toolbox from that video. As she mentioned in the video, our body automatically can go into a stress reaction without us even realizing. Breathing is the gateway to the present moment. It allows us to move from stress to calm within just a few breaths. We're now going to practice another breathing exercise that she mentioned in the video together. It can be utilized when you're feeling overwhelmed, stressed, or any other negative emotion.
Practice the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding technique. This grounding technique can be used anytime throughout your day when you're feeling stressed, overwhelmed, or simply disconnected from your body. At this time, you may want to position yourself to be a little bit more comfortable. Maybe placing both feet on the ground or sitting up straight. For this exercise, I ask that you keep your eyes open and simply soften your gaze. In order to enter this present moment, we're going to take a deep breath in through our nose and out through our mouth. One more time. We're going to breathe in through our nose for 1, 2, 3, and out through our mouth for 1, 2, 3. You may continue this breathing pattern or allow your breath to resume its natural pattern. While you continue breathing, simply notice your surroundings. In your head, take note of 5 things you can see. It might be the computer in front of you, or maybe it's a water bottle on your table. Bring awareness to the 5 things within your sight. Next, take note of 4 things you can feel. It might be the shirt you are wearing, or where your body is connecting with the chair underneath you. As you continue to breathe, bring awareness to 4 things you can feel. Now, we're going to shift our focus to 3 things we can hear. It might be the sound of my voice or a neighbor's dog barking. Bring awareness to the sound that is entering your space. Next, take note of 2 things you can smell. If you're burning a candle, it may be the scent of the candle, or maybe it's something you just cooked. Simply bring your awareness to your sense of smell. Lastly, we're going to notice our taste. Take note of 1 thing you can taste in this moment. It may be the last sip of water or tea you just had, or maybe it's the last snack you ate. Bring awareness to your sense of taste. As we end this exercise, let's take 1 last deep breath together. Breathing in through our nose and out through our mouth. Thank you for taking this moment to pause with me. This grounding exercise allows you to utilize your self-awareness in order to regulate your emotions. You can take time to go through all 5 senses, or maybe you just want to focus on 1 or 2. Connecting with our body and our surrounding allows us to enter the present moment, helping us to reduce stress and other overwhelming emotions. Thank you for holding this space with me today.
Joey Jones, a retired United States Marine, has become the forefront of advocacy for active duty and veteran wounded warriors. Joey's career was brought to an end after he was severely injured in Afghanistan on August 2010, losing both legs above the knee. During the pandemic, Joey created videos of veterans encouraging Americans through COVID-19. Take a look at this inspiring video.
As a veteran, a survivor of war, and a grateful American, let me tell you this, you will get through this.
We showed you that video from our nation's heroes sending a message to Americans about getting through this pandemic. And Joey Jones helped create that video, and he joins us next. Joey, you there? Good morning. Hey, so why did you make this video? We played it when we had another veteran on yesterday, and it just is so touching. Why'd you do this?
Well, it was pretty easy for me. I realized all the social distancing, especially back in March, April, and May, felt a lot like being on deployment. You're looking for random heavy things to pick up, used to the gym weight. You're playing cards around the table instead of going out to dinner. And I knew that if so many American veterans made it through deployment like this with a danger like IEDs, that those similarities with COVID, Americans might draw a little bit of inspiration from that. And it needed to come from more voices than just my own. So I wrote an op-ed for BoxNews.com, and with the help of Alana Phillips and Ben Host as our audio editor and video editor, we put this video together and gave it to Boot Campaign, a military nonprofit, and they're using it to stir up support for everything they have going on as well.
Y'all are some of the toughest, some of the bravest. You're definitely our country's heroes. So when we hear you say it, it gives us hope. What was some of the reaction?
The reaction has been phenomenal. People write me on social media. The video's been out there for a few days now, and they said, this makes so much sense. Thank you for saying this. And unlike some of those, celebrity videos that kind of put the spotlight on them, my goal is to use just regular, everyday veterans that are out in life, living life, enjoying life, just to say, hey, I made it through something like this, and you can too. And that's all we're trying to say. I think we did a good job at.
How can we help you in your organization?
Boot Campaign is a phenomenal organization. They actually do a lot to support mental health for veterans. And as you know, through all of the quarantine and lockdown, that need has gone up while their fundraising has not, because they can't have their events. So if you could go to bootcampaign.org, check out the programs, and maybe even donate, that would be very helpful. And that's why we wanted this video to them.
Okay, we have it right there on the bottom of the screen, Joey, bootcampaign.org. Thanks so much, Joey.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
One of our very own New Jersey paramedics, Kate Bergen, found herself struggling with depression and fear. In a way to cope with this mounting stress, she turned to painting. Let's meet Kate Bergen.
We are back now with our salute to emergency service workers this week. So many have faced unimaginable struggles trying to safeguard the public as well as their own families. Well, meet one paramedic who turned to her paintbrush to help her cope.
My name is Kate Bergen. I am a paramedic for Atlantic Care and Capital Health. I'm 38 years old. I've been a paramedic for 9 years, and I have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. And if you count my husband, he's a kid too. Right now with our pandemic, my job has definitely changed, but it's more of on a personal level. It's definitely a level of anxiety that I haven't experienced before. And it's something that I was having a very hard time coming to grips with. And I have this nagging fear and anxiety in the back of my head. Am I going to bring this home? And it was starting to really, really get to me, which is how I started to get into painting. My inspiration for the paramedic painting comes from Rosie the Riveter. I have always seen her as an inspiration. She's kind of like a call to action, like we can do it. And this was my own personal public announcement, like we can do it together if you stay home. And I chose the paramedic because we're on the front lines. I'm living this. So it was the most personal for me at the time. We are all in this together, and we have to work together in order to really flatten the curve. So I've sold quite a few. One of the first ones I sold was my paramedic print.
I found it very empowering to women. We work in a male-dominated field historically. It has a great message for how we can all stand together, stay home, stay safe, stay covered up. I absolutely had to have it. I bought her first print, and it sits in my living room so that you can see it when I get home every day.
There are so many essential workers out there, truck drivers, mail carriers, grocery store workers, all those things you take for granted until there's a possibility that you might not have those things. While I don't consider myself a hero, I feel like at times we are literally at war. You know, I'm literally risking my life and possibly the lives of my family and my 2 little children. That's been a big issue for me and something I've really had to reach down deep to try and quell inside in order to continue to do a job I love and help those out.
That's right, Kate, we can do it. So today I just want to introduce to you a longtime friend, dear friend of mine who's been in the EMS for over 15 years, New Jersey paramedic Kate the Riveter Bergen. I had the pleasure of working with Kate and she painted me. So just want to say hi and pop on.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. It's very much an honor to be here and to talk about this. This was a really big deal for me at the time, and I think it still is. And I think the best part about all of it is that I get to make others feel heard, that their stories get told, and that they get some pride and some, you know, congratulations that they really deserve, you know. And I'm using my voice to give them a voice, and it means so much. It's so special. It's still going. I've done 27 to date. I have another 25 to do, and then I'm starting a new series for the 20th anniversary of 9/11, where I'm going to be doing women of 9/11 in a very similar fashion. So I'm excited.
I'm going to share with you Kate's Etsy shop so you can take a look at the rest of her beautiful paintings. Kate, I mean, it's been a couple months since they first did the 6 ABC News. She's been in quite a few, maybe a dozen articles and videos and interviews. So we're so lucky to have you here with us today. Just want to ask you a couple questions. So since this ABC and this project has taken off, since 6 ABC took off, how have things been for you? Have you been getting a lot of emails and questions for paintings? Things like that?
Yeah, it's a little overwhelming at times, but it's, you know, it's a great problem to have. There are a lot of people that were interested when the video came out with ABC. I had to actually turn off my phone and my emails, and I gave it to my husband. I said, you need to do this. I can't. It was very overwhelming. I mean, it was a great feeling. With Etsy, same thing. You know, there's a lot of people that are really very supportive, and it's amazing. It's surreal, and you know, I just want to keep going.
It's awesome. I know that part of your, I'm not sure how much percentage, but part of the money that you receive on each painting gets donated to Mission for Hope. So you can just tell us a little bit about that organization, and so far, if you have to date, how much you've donated.
So Mission Hope New Jersey is a charity funded by a paramedic who was trying to target those of us that deal with PTSD and suicide awareness, and really just dealing with mental health. And at the time when I started painting these, it became an outlet for me because I didn't know how to deal with my own mental health. And I was coming home and having breakdowns, which was not something I do. I mean, I've been doing this for 15 years. I don't take my work home. So for me to react that way was eye-opening, and just I started painting as a way to cope. And then I realized other people don't have that outlet. And we knew Eric Hicken, who runs it. My husband actually suggested I talk to him at that time when I was in the throes of all of those emotions. So I did eventually talk to him, and I decided, because I'm sure what I was feeling was not unique to me, I wanted to bring awareness to mental health, to PTSD, to those of us in the field that really deal with this, and bring it home whether you realize it or not. So I approached him. I said, I want to donate our profits. We donate 10% of every sale to Mission Hope. To date, we've donated $500. So I'm really proud about that.
That's awesome.
And they're just a great organization. I mean, I can't say enough good things about them. I hope to keep this going, you know, and keep their message out there, because I think it's important.
It is, yes. So I'm going to share in the chat box if you want to follow them on their Facebook or Instagram or Twitter pages. It's Bergen Studios. I just want to say thank you, Kate, so much. We're so lucky to have you again with us today. And if anyone has any questions before she goes, she'll be here with us for the duration. So feel free to drop her a comment or question. But I want to bring you to Ravi, who's going to introduce you to the Zoom poll.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you, Kelly, and thank you, Kate, for joining us for everything that you're doing. It's really special. So we've heard from from Kelly and from Michelle and a little bit from Kate, and we've seen some videos. Now we'd like to hear from you. So we're going to launch a Zoom poll. It's about our topic for today about self-regulation. It's an anonymous poll. There are 4 questions that are going to be asked. It's going to pop up on your screen as soon as I launch it. I just ask you on the right sidebar, just scroll down, answer all four questions, and then click submit. And then when we're done, we're gonna show the results and we'll be able to talk about it with Michelle and Kelly. So I'm gonna launch the poll right now and play some nice music for you all over the next couple of minutes. And if you have any questions or comments about the questions in the poll, you're welcome to also add that into our chat. All right, thank you for everyone for participating and answering those questions. I'm now going to launch the results, which will be visible on your screen right now. And I'm going to hand back over to Michelle and to Kelly to process some of these answers.
Awesome. Thank you, Ravi. And thank you everyone again for participating. Just by completing the Zoom poll, you've already been able to exercise your self-awareness while also learning about your self-regulation. Kelly and I are just going to read the results and reflect on each question. Kelly?
There it is.
All right. So cheering for myself when I'm feeling down. Sometimes, okay, as long as we don't have any ones, I'm good with that. I know I am myself my own hype girl. I try to be my own biggest cheerleader. I don't know about some of you guys, but this is great. Sometimes, often, and always. I like it.
Awesome. Number 2, how often do you find yourself persisting through difficult times? I love this result. 50% said often, 41% said always or almost. We have some sometimes. This just proves that you all are practicing your resilience each and every day. So that's awesome to see.
I think this one's even better. How often do you find yourself putting forth your best effort? So that's great. 41% often and 45% always or almost always. I think that's great. As first responders, I feel like a lot of us are those, like, we have so much grit within ourselves to be able to push forward and push through these times. And, now more than ever, it's so important that we are doing and putting in our best efforts. This is great.
Number 4, how often do you find yourself remaining flexible and adapting to situations? Again, we have 41% often. We have almost always and always at 36% and 23% sometimes. This makes so much sense, this result. Everyone as first responders, it's your job to remain flexible and adapting to situations, especially during COVID-19. We've been doing nothing but trying to remain flexible and adapt. So that's great to see.
It's great. How often do you find yourself seeing the good in others? 41%, that's great. I think that as first responders, like, we keep kind of beating it, and vets and military and just all of you guys, a lot of us work with COVID right now. I saw a lot of us are from the COVID Connect. Like, that's why we do this job. We see the good in others. If we didn't, we probably wouldn't be here. So these are great expected answers.
Number 6, how often do you find yourself staying clear about your intentions? We have 5% never or rarely, 18 sometimes, 45% often, and 32 always or almost always. Again, this is just exercise to practice our self-awareness. There's no need to judge. If you've answered sometimes or never or rarely, that's totally okay. It can just be our way of noticing that maybe this is something we want to focus on.
How often do you find yourself taking control of situations when necessary? This is great. Often and always and almost always is the majority of this. We've got a lot of leaders in this group. That's great. First responders, we're the first ones on scene. The public, our coworkers, they're looking at us. We're there to take control of these situations and calm everyone down. So this is great.
How often do you find yourself viewing challenges as opportunities? Again, we have a tie for 41% with often, always, or almost always. This just proves that everyone is in that strengths-based mindset, which is so important, especially during these times. So again, thank you for everyone for participating. Now that we've heard from you through the Zoom poll, we want to take this a step further, and we're going to break out into smaller groups, into breakout sessions. So once you're in your group, please just share one thing that you always do and one thing that you never do or need to improve on. This is just another way we can all learn from each other and support one another. I just want to say thank you for everyone for participating. I don't know about everyone else, but I love this breakout session just to connect with some of you a little bit more. And I know one point that I just want to bring up that was brought up was the intent to try to stay in that positive mindset. And although that's so important, it's also really hard. And just having that self-awareness that we struggle with it sometimes is just as important to try to be positive. So again, thank you everyone in my group. Thank you. I'm sure everyone else's group was just as fruitful. At this time, we're now going to hear from Joe from the RISE team to tell us a little bit about our next video.
From New Jersey to California, police officers are going above and beyond the call of duty to help members of their communities get through these difficult times. When you're self-regulated, you are at your best. Here's some of the most inspiring stories from our own police officers here in New Jersey. Being a police officer myself, I couldn't be more proud.
A New Jersey police department threw a pizza party for hundreds of people while following social distancing rules. The West Hampton Police Department partnered with 3 restaurants to deliver 275 pizzas. The police chief, Stephen Ent, told CNN they wanted to do something to bring a positive light and put a smile on people's faces. The department paid for everything through its community policing fund. Katie Johnston for CBS Philly.
It's at the times right now, and we were trying to figure out a way we identify senior citizens as vulnerable people in our community. Therefore, we tried to figure out how we can help them get through this, make their lives a little easier. The response has been amazing. We need the newspapers, we need the news media to get involved because they are watching TV and they are reading the news, and we want to identify them so we can create that list so that we know where we need to go, who we need to call, who we need to check on, so we get through.
So breathing is a tool that you can utilize anytime. If you're able to take some mindful breaths, I encourage you to try to take them outside. Nature holds so many more benefits. Here's a 90 seconds resiliency video on how to de-stress with nature and the environment.
Nature environmental de-stress. The stress of an unpleasant environment or surroundings can cause you to feel anxious or sad or helpless. Nature heals, soothes, and restores. Being in nature or even viewing scenes of nature reduces anger, fear, stress, as well as increase pleasant feelings. Exposure to nature not only makes you feel better emotionally, it contributes to your physical well-being, reduces blood pressure, heart rate, muscle tension, and the production of stress hormones. Nature connects. The time spent in nature when I feel most connected to all living things and to the larger world. The sight of animals shows me that I have a place in this world among all living things. The sight and smell of trees, the overgrowth of greenery, also connects me to the earth. When climbing the mountains with majestic heights, it reminds me that there is something higher and greater than myself. The ocean too can produce soothing sights, smells, and sounds. So whether walking through the woods, climbing the mountains of Peru, or walking on the New Jersey shore, all give me a sense of peace during troubling and uncertain times.
Nature can have such a strong positive effect on our overall well-being. Imagine how beneficial it would be to combine both nature and mindful breathing. My challenge to you is to do exactly that. Next time you go to take some mindful breaths, try to take them outside. Notice the trees, the fresh air, and connect to your breath with one of the many mindful breathing tools we've learned today.
I just want to remind everyone that we're going to be meeting again in 2 weeks. We're going to be doing this again. It'll be our 4th webinar. It's going to be on Rise First Responder, the Winner's Circle. And it's really talking about personal strengths and ways in which we can engage and overcome just your everyday obstacles, the things that are challenges that you seem to just take on day in and day out. We want to again remind everyone that we're on Facebook, we're on risefirstresponders.com. Please find us on social media. We make it a point to post on Instagram and on Twitter. More importantly, we want to share this information with all of your colleagues, all of your friends, family members that are first responders, that know that we're more than just the webinars. We have support groups scheduled where we bring everyone together. It's all anonymous. We have these webinars, and of course we have our call line where you can call us and again talk to our staff that are doing the work with you, that are responding and understand what it means to be a first responder. We also want to hear from you regarding how we can continue to improve these webinars. I've just put a feedback survey. It is anonymous, and we ask you to just take a couple of minutes, whether it's now since it's fresh in your head or a little bit later tonight if you've had some time to process. We want to continue to make these webinars better. We want them to be geared towards you, and we want to make sure that all New Jersey first responders feel supported. So please let us know what you think. Let us know areas that worked really well, and let us know in areas that we can be better. And finally, again, we really just want to say thank you to each and every one of you for all of your work day in and day out, for being a first responder, for heading towards the crisis, heading towards the emergency as other people run for safety. We can't thank you enough for all of your work, all of your colleagues for what you're doing. And we want to offer our availability. You can call us anytime. You can reach us at 833-237-4325. So please make sure and spread that to all of your colleagues. Give us a call. And remember, let's rise together. Take care, be safe, and thank you for joining us today.